Hello BookTube, Sarah here and welcome to my channel. Today I'm coming to you with my February 2019 month-end wrap-up. So in these videos every month I tell you about all the books that I read from the middle of the month to the end of the month. And in this case, of course, from the 16th to the 28th of February. I'm also going to go through all of my stats for all of the books that I read over the entirety of the entire month. So I've got my handy dandy notes here on my tablet. So let's jump in and get started. So first of all, with my reading stats, I read a total of 26 books in the month of February. Not too shabby for a month that only has 28 days. As per my Goodreads goal, I am currently 6 books ahead of schedule, or I was as of the 1st of March, and that is 18% of my goal completed. I read 5 3-star books, 9 3.5-star books. I've noticed that 3.5 is starting to become like my go-to for rating, because I'm not, you know, if I don't absolutely love it, but it's not, you know, only a 3-star, but it's not quite a 4-star. I mean, of course, it's a 3.5-star, but that seems to be a lot of the books that I'm reading lately are enjoyable, but not books that I'm absolutely loving. 10 4-star books, which was pretty good, 1 4.5-star book, and 1 5-star book. I read 9 contemporary romance novels, 7 historical romance novels. Now, I used to break the historical romance down by time period, but I stopped doing that because it was getting a little much. There were so many different time periods I was reading from, and it was getting rather confusing, so I thought, let's just label it all as historical romance, and we'll go from there. I read 3 romantic suspense novels, 3 cozy mysteries, 1 middle grade fiction, 1 nonfiction history novel, 3, that can't be right, 1 steampunk, I obviously wrote that down wrong, and 1 science fiction novel. I read, from the Harlequin imprints or Harlequin series line. I always like keeping track of how many of these I read every month. I read 2 Harlequin historicals, 2 Harlequin romantic suspense, 1 Harlequin intrigue, 1 Harlequin special edition, and 1 Harlequin American romance. I read 25 books geared towards an adult audience and 1 book for a middle grade audience. I read 5 books published in the 1980s. These are, of course, that would have been one of my middle grade books, The Babysitter's Club, and the others would have been my 40 Years of Harlequin project. 1 book published in the 90s, 4 books published in the 2000s, so 2000 to 2009, and then 1 published in 2010, 2 published in 2012, 1 published in 2015, 1 published in 2016, 2 published in 2017, 3 published in 2018, and 6 books published this year in 2019, so that's pretty awesome. I read 13 audiobooks and 9 ebooks and 4 paperback or mass market paperback novels. Again, those would be my 40 Years of Harlequin project books. I read 25 novels and 1 anthology. Out of all the books that I read, 19 of them were part of a series and 7 of them were standalone novels. Of all the ones that were part of a series, 4 were new series that I started, I know. Not as bad as last month though. And 15 were part of ongoing series. I read a grand total of 8,431 pages, which averages out to 301 pages a day. Amazing. Absolutely amazing. So I impress myself. I really do. So let's jump in now to all the books that I actually read in the tail end of the month. So the first book that I finished, and this is in order of when I finished them, was Secrets of a Summer Night by Lisa Kleypas. This is a historical romance novel. It is book number 1 in the Wildflower series, or the Wallflower series, excuse me. Narrated on audio by Rosalind Landor. Published in October of 2004. An average rating of 4.05 stars on Goodreads. I gave it 4 stars. This one was really fun, a really enjoyable historical romance about, the whole basis of the series is about these 4 friends who meet at a ball and are considered to be the wallflowers because they kind of sit by themselves. They don't get asked to dance or socialize very much. And they, you know, kind of start a pact with each other to get each other married off, essentially. And this is the first girl's story, and she has her sights set on this one gentleman, but it turns out that there's another gentleman who's just perfect for her. And this was really cute, really enjoyable. It did get spicy. I'm really enjoying Lisa Kleypas's historical romances. This is one of, I think I've read another historical romance by her too, but these are still fairly new to me. I'm used to her contemporaries, but this one was an absolute recommend. The next one I finished was Night Moves by Heather Graham. This was a romantic suspense novel. Silhouette Intimate Moments, that's what it was called back then. It would now be Harlequin Romantic Suspense. Number 118. This was originally published in November of 1985. Average rating on Goodreads of 3.99 stars. I gave it 3.5 stars. This is one, of course, that was part of my 40 Years of Harlequin project. I really like this one. I mean, it's not the Heather Graham that I'm used to, but this was an interesting story about a woman who is a photographer, and she takes some photos that have some things in them that she wasn't supposed to see, and someone is now after her. Really good. You can actually find this book. Now, I grabbed a paperback of it, like the original publication of this book, to read for this project. But this book is absolutely available for the Kindle if you're interested in picking it up. They've republished a lot of her older books for the Kindle, so it's kind of fun going through some of those older ones. But yeah, so this one was enjoyable. If you're a fan of Heather Graham, maybe give it a read. Next up, Virgin River by Robin Carr. This was a contemporary romance novel, book number 1 in the Virgin River series. This was narrated on audio by Therese Plummer, published in March of 2007. Average rating on Goodreads of 4.12 stars. I gave it 3 stars. I was part of the minority in this one that I did not love this book. I had some issues with the main character at the beginning, and then I had some big issues with some of the things that happened towards the end. I don't want to give too much away, but 2 of the things that really bother me that tend to happen more often than not in contemporary romance, where, you know, somebody couldn't get pregnant and then all of a sudden by miracle they can, which I think is very unrealistic and not something that the average woman would be able to experience who is having fertility issues. And the other, the fact that she is a widow and was happily married before her husband was killed in a robbery gone bad. She meets someone and falls in love again, which is absolutely fine, but then goes on to say that maybe she didn't love her first husband as much. You know, you can love more than one person, you know. You can be soulmates, if you want to even call it that, with more than one person. You know, you shouldn't discount your first marriage just because, or maybe you're doing it to make yourself feel better. I don't know. But yeah, I've seen it happen a number of times, both of those things, in a lot of romance novels, and it doesn't sit well with me, either of them. But outside of that, the story was well written. The characters were interesting. I am reading this for my Stacking the Series challenge, so I'll be going through, I think, the first 10 books or something like that in the series, so I'll be working through these as the year goes on. The next book that I read was No Good Tea Goes Unpunished by Bree Baker. This is a cozy mystery series. Book number 2 in a seaside cafe mystery. Published in February of 2019, so it just came out in February. I read this one for NetGalley. Average rating on Goodreads of 4.09 stars. I give it 4 stars. This one was really fun. It's about a woman, the premise of this cozy mystery series is about a woman who runs a tea shop, an iced tea shop in the Outer Banks of the Carolinas, and in this tiny town called Charm. And she, at the very beginning of the novel, is hosting one of her high school friends or her childhood friend's wedding, and then the groom ends up dead, and the story goes from there. It's a lot of fun. There is a stray cat that shows up. There is a seagull that hangs out with her that she talks to. His name is Lou. And it's got, you know, some kooky ants that to me are slightly reminiscent of the ants from Practical Magic, from the movie, not the book, because there is a difference. And yeah, I really, really enjoyed this one. I thought it was a lot of fun. Next up, Seduced by the Scot by Julia London. This is another historical romance novel. Book number 6 in the Highland Groom series. Narrated on audio by Derek Perkins. Published in October of 2018. Average rating of 3.96 stars on Goodreads. I gave it 3.5 stars. This one was fun. I do like a good Highland romance. And this is about a woman who is kind of been shunned by her family because she is being blamed for turning her sister's fiance's head. So, you know, they claim that the two of them were in a tryst in the hallway, and, you know, that she is trying to ruin her sister's wedding. So they want to send her away. And our male lead comes, and he's going to escort her to go and marry this man who is quite a bit older than her. And she really doesn't want to go. So during the course of their travel, she is trying to get away from him every chance she has. But of course, eventually they end up starting to get along, and a romance starts to blossom. I really enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun. The narration on this one was really good. Derek Perkins did a great job, especially with his Scottish accent. Highly enjoyable. Next up, Dylan by Linda Leal Miller. This is a contemporary romance novel. It is book number 2 in the Montana Creed series, narrated on audio by Jack Garrett, published in March of 2009. Average rating of 4.18 stars on Goodreads. I gave it 3.5 stars. Didn't love this one, but it was enjoyable. The Montana Creed series is about 3 brothers who all, for various reasons, they don't talk to each other, you know. After their father passed away, there was a big scuffle actually at his funeral, and the 3 boys have stopped talking, and now, of course, they're older, and they're all coming back to their small town to kind of, you know, change up their lives and things like that. And yeah, this one, it was an atypical kind of Western romance. He's a former championship bull rider, and one day when he's leaving the bull ring, he finds his 2-year-old daughter left abandoned by her mother in his truck with a note saying, "I can't take care of her anymore, you need to." So he knew about the daughter, he was paying child support and all those things, but he had no real contact with his ex-flame. It wasn't his ex-wife or anything, his ex-one-night stand, perhaps, maybe. And so he now has to care for this little girl. So he goes back home, and he ends up meeting up with the local librarian that they knew each other when they were younger. And of course, it's a second chance. I think, no, it's not really a second chance romance because they weren't really together, but it was really cute. I enjoyed it. Not absolutely fantastic. Jack Garrett does all of the narration, as far as I know, for most of Linda Leal Miller's work. And he does a really good job. He has that perfect cowboy kind of voice. And I love that I posted, because I post on Instagram if you don't follow me. Usually, it takes about a week or so, but because I'm trying to go in order. But I create a little picture, and then I put up every book that I finish with my star rating and stuff like that. And when I posted this one, someone commented that he looked like Bradley Cooper from A Star is Born. So I haven't seen the movie, but just pointing that out, because I thought that was kind of funny. The next book that I finished was The Scandalous Suffragette by Eliza Redgold. This is a historical romance novel. Harlequin Historical number 1429. This book is not being published until April of 2019, so it doesn't come out for another month or so. Or no, another few weeks. It would come out at the beginning of April. But I highly recommend that you go ahead and pick it up when it comes out. I did read this for a special project for Read Bliss, so be on the lookout for that video coming later in March. But this, where was I? Has an average rating of 4 stars on Goodreads, and I gave it 4 stars. I am the only rating for this book on Goodreads, so that's kind of interesting and kind of fun. So this one was a really interesting story. It's about a woman by the name of Violet, and she is the daughter of a, she is the heiress to a chocolate empire, like candy chocolate, and she is a suffragette. She believes that women need to get the right to vote, and this takes place in the UK, in London, and she, a scandal kind of happens because of something that she did at a ball. And this man by the name of Adam, who needs to rescue his family fortune, knows that she is an heiress and has a ton of money, and essentially agrees to marry her. You know, he is forthcoming saying, I need the money, and you need to get rid of this scandal. So it's kind of a marriage of convenience of sorts. And what I love is they talk about even the Cadbury factory. Cadbury chocolates is one of my favorites. I mean, who doesn't love those mini eggs and the cream eggs that come out at Easter? But yeah, the talking about some of the other chocolate factories and stuff like that. But this was a really enjoyable book. Great for women's rights. Very, very interesting. You know, it kind of goes into a more militant kind of direction at one point when she's asked to kind of join this group that uses different tactics to try and get the attention of the government. And I really like that what Violet did and the decisions that Violet made, you know, all of her own accord, not because somebody told her to. So yeah, really enjoyable, and you know, I think it would be a great book for everybody to read. Next up, Double Images by Patricia Rosemore, a romantic suspense novel. This is Harlequin Intrigue number 38. Published in February of 1986. Average rating of 3.67 stars on Goodreads. I gave it 3.5 stars. This is another one that was part of my 40 Years of Harlequin project. Another one that kind of very similar to Night Moves, where these two people are both music video directors, and they have come together to direct this series of music videos for this this rock band. And this book came out right around the time that MTV started, so you know, that was kind of fun. And they got something on film that they shouldn't have seen, and of course now they're being kind of stalked. So it was a lot of fun. I enjoyed it. This is not one that you can get on ebook now. I looked. I do look because I want to, you know, in case you guys think these sound interesting, to mention them to you. But, you know, if you run across it at a used bookstore or you decide to pick it up, you know, through the Amazon Marketplace, it was an enjoyable read. Next up, Colton Undercover by MarieFerrarella, another romantic suspense novel. This is book number 2 in the Coltons of Shadow Creek series. It is Harlequin romantic suspense novel number 1939, published in April of 2017. Average rating of 4.09 stars on Goodreads. I gave it 3.5 stars. This one was a lot of fun too. The whole overarching premise of the Coltons of Shadow Creek series is about a woman who is in jail for the murder of this person, and she has 6 children. And all of her children have different fathers, from what I gather so far. And each story is about a different one of her children because they are actually trying to capture the mother because she escaped from jail. So this FBI agent goes undercover, and he goes to talk to Lenore, who is our main character in this novel, to find out what she knows about where her mother's whereabouts, which isn't very much. And of course, the two of them develop a relationship, and then they find out that there's somebody else stalking her. And yeah, it's really good. I really did enjoy it. It's a quick, easy read, and but I do recommend that you read this series in order if you can, because of the overarching plot line. But it's only 6 books, and like I said, they're not terribly long. I read the first one a couple years ago, and then I'm now reading the last 5 this year for the Stacking the Series Challenge. So because I read the first one a few years ago, I had forgotten a lot of things. So if you are going to read them and read them in order, try and read them a bit closer together than once every couple years. Next up, All He Ever Needed by Shannon Stacey, a contemporary romance novel. This is book number 4 in the Kowalski family series, narrated on audio by Renee Werbowski. Published in September of 2012. Average rating of 4.01 stars on Goodreads. I gave it 3.5 stars. This one was okay. I mean, I gave it 3.5 stars. I mean, it was a Shannon Stacey, so I think it automatically got that, like, extra half-a-star rating. Because it's really good. Like, the characters were great. The dialogue was great. I just found the story to be just a little bit lacking. It's about a man, Mitch, who is the cousin of the original Kowalski boys in the beginning of the series. And this one takes place in, I think, Maine. And he has come home to care for his younger brother who broke his leg. And the younger brother owns and runs the family lodge that they rent out for, like, snowmobilers and people who want to go hiking and things like that. So he's there to help him around the lodge while his leg is broken. And he falls in love with the local new woman in town who runs the local diner. And, you know, he's a playboy, and she wants to, she's kind of sworn off men kind of an idea. So yeah, I mean, the characters are great. The dialogue is great. I loved the beginning of this series so much, and the first book was so strong that I just feel like the rest of the books in the series are just kind of not as great. They're not living up to that first book for me, because the first book in this series was amazing. The next one that I finished was Christie and the Mother's Day Surprise by Ann M. Martin. This is, of course, a middle grade fiction novel. Babysitter's Club book number 24, published in May of 1989. Average rating of 3.57 stars on Goodreads. I gave it 3 stars. This one was average. Most of the Babysitter's Club books are going to be pretty average for me. I mean, they're not meant for me. They're meant for a much younger audience. But in this one, Christie and the other babysitters come up with the idea to, for their own parents and for the parents of their babysitting charges, to take all the kids for the day to this carnival and, you know, kind of give the mothers a break. So that's kind of the whole plot of the story, and, you know, of course, the shenanigans that the babysitters get into. It was fun. It was enjoyable. It was a quick read. I'm enjoying reading back through this series, as I always say. And yeah, I mean, it's fun. Next up, oh, I love this book. The Truth Is Out There by Jonathan Mayberry. This was actually edited by Jonathan Mayberry. It is written by about 13 different authors, because this is the anthology that I read. This is the science fiction book that I read this month. Narrated on audio by Bronson Pichot and Hilary Huber. I think it's Huber. Published in February of 2016. Average rating of 4.04 stars on Goodreads. I give it 4.5 stars. This was also for Romance Alle. I believe this was for Alien Avenue, because you had to read an alien or science fiction romance. And I'm sorry, Mulder and Scully. Anyone who was an X-Files fan? Yes. I mean, they were a couple at the end of the series, right? At least off and on, if you will. And this one was so good. The only reason it did not get 5 stars, and some of you might find this funny, those of you who are X-Files fans, my favorite character was Krychek. I know, he was the bad guy, but I loved Krychek, and Krychek only got a mention in this book. I so badly wanted him to be in a story. I mean, every other character that was major, the cigarette-smoking man, Skinner, you know, X, Deep Throat, they were all in this anthology, but no Krychek. It's very upsetting. Even the lone gunmen were in here. But yeah, if you are an X-Files fan, I highly recommend that you check these out. There is a first, this is the second volume, so there is a first volume called, what was this one called? The Truth Is Out There. So the first one was called Trust No One, and then this one is The Truth Is Out There, and I think there's a third. So I might have to, I'm trying to space these out because they're so enjoyable. And yeah, absolutely wonderful. I definitely recommend you check them out if you're an X-Files fan. And last but not least, Chocolate Alle Murder by Kristen Weiss. This is another cozy mystery series. It is book number 4 in the Perfectly Proper Paranormal Museum series. Say that 3 times fast. Published in March of 2019, so that one is coming out this month. Well, as of me recording this. Average rating of 3.65 stars on Goodreads. I gave it 4 stars. This one was fun. It's about a woman. The premise of the cozy mystery is about a woman who owns a paranormal museum. And in the little small town in California where they live, they are doing a wine and chocolate festival for like a week. So she's got all these like events going on at her paranormal museum to deal with chocolate and things like that. And they had ordered this whole bunch of chocolate from this like brand new chocolate maker in town. And the order wasn't delivered, so she goes over to find out what's going on and finds that he's been murdered. And the story goes from there. Really fun. This, as I said, this ticked all the boxes for cozy mystery. You know, it's a single woman who owns her own business. She has a pet. It's a cat that actually senses ghosts. She's dating the local police officer. You know, she has some kooky friends and relatives. I mean, it's an atypical cozy mystery, but I love the paranormal twist to it. And even more so because she doesn't believe really in the paranormal, or in ghosts at least. I don't know if she doesn't believe in the paranormal, but she actually doesn't believe in ghosts, which is kind of fun. But yeah, so that one was really enjoyable too. So anyway, guys, that is it for this video. I do hope you enjoyed it. Please let me know in the comments below if you've read any of these books and what you thought about them, or what was your favorite book that you read in the month of February. And until my next video, guys, take care and happy reading. Thank you so much for watching. Bye, everybody.